Welcome to The Business on Radio Verulam, the voice of your local business community.
Hello, yes, it's Sunday, it's 8 p.m, and yes, welcome to The Business. I'm Trevor Merriden with the show that's essential listening for the West Herts business community. Another packed show this evening, as always. We have Tony Picciuto from Buongiorno, Italia, in the studio as our interview guest with his inimitable view on life behind the counter of his local business. We've got Mike Dilke, the chair from the chair company, who will be sitting down with on our cheap hard seats to tell us all about his lovely comfy ones. Moule, she's from Enterprise Marketing Solutions, will be telling us about her light bulb moments and top tips. And friend of the show, Alex Shoobert, will be talking about her best business decision. And then, of course, there's our diary planner, a roundup of the week ahead. But first of all, what's in the business news? I think I've set Roma, Bhowmick and Victoria Scott laughing already. Have I got a few names wrong already?
No, it's just the Italian accent didn't quite do it for me.
Buongiorno.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Buongiorno.
I've got off on the wrong foot already on that. But Roma, what's lighting your candle in the week's news?
Well, as you know, we often talk about finance and funding for business, one of our favourite topics. But we've yet to talk about something called crowdfunding. Are you familiar with the term?
I am.
Yeah. Well, crowdfunding is all about funding a project or venture by raising many small amounts of money from a large number of people. It can be the most efficient way to move funds from many savers and investors to responsible people and businesses, whether through donations, rewards, peer-to-peer lending or crowd investing. It allows savers and investors to diversify at the same time as adding badly needed alternative finance options to small businesses. Okay, so what are the benefits, you might ask? Well, the main advantages of crowdfunding are that it's cost effective. It'll give you a lot of exposure from marketing point of view because you're engaging with the local community. And you can also gain what they call crowd feedback on your business idea, your model, your product, which can be a lot quicker than most of the other forms of finance as well.
Can I ask a question though? I mean, if you were somebody like James Dyson, for example, and he went from person to person, sort of nobody sort of bought into some of the things he was doing, and then eventually somebody said yes to him on that. I mean, crowdfunding, is it a bit populist that they'll go for safe bets? Do you think as a crowd of people? What about the sort of maverick investor?
Well, I think first of all the Dyson story, it is an interesting one, and I think the biggest issue for him was that he was going to the big corporates, and it was a particular threat to their traditional vacuum. But I think what is interesting about crowdfunding is that it gives the man in the street, as it were, an opportunity. Even if you want to invest 10 quid, you can do that. For the maverick investor, I'm not so sure. There's a lot of information out there, though.
Yeah, okay.
So,
all right. Just a thought.
That's a good thought.
I think it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because certainly what I know of it, the people that tend to get involved, because it's also a tax mitigation opportunity, but the people that tend to get involved, quite often it's because they're passionate about the area that they're potentially being given an opportunity to invest in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not quite the same, but it's a bit like, having one leg of a racehorse.
Yeah.
You can't actually, very few people can afford to own the whole thing.
No.
But if you're interested in racing,
it's
then
like
it gets you into the market, which is quite interesting for people, particularly if you're also looking for a bit of tax mitigation.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, speaking to some business owners who have accessed this type of finance, a number of things I've realised are that there are some key things to be aware of. Firstly, obviously, you'll need to be able to convince others that you have a sound proposition. So you really need a good business and action plan and sound handle on cash flow. But that's not such a bad thing because that's what makes a healthy business. It can be hard work setting up and then maintaining the momentum of the project to ensure it hits the target. And if you're not careful, you absolutely must not underestimate the importance of networks and networking, obviously in the right circles. Having said all of that, it's a great way, as I said earlier, to get feedback and involvement in developing your product or service, because investors will have a vested interest in what you're doing and they're likely to be part of your local community. That's where the funding tends to come from. And as a result, a super way of getting local market awareness for what you do. I've given just a kind of real touch of a flavour about the subject. but you can find out more if you're interested. There are a couple of good websites that I found. Firstly, the UK Crowdfunding Association at all the W's, ukcfa.org.uk. They also have a Twitter feed, which is at UK Crowdfunding. And also, I looked at crowdbank.com. Their web address is all the W's, crowdbnk.com, and again on Twitter at crowdbnk for more information and ideas, and maybe even contacts. And in fact, I've tweeted both organisations, so you never know, we might be able to get them on to talk about it in more detail. And obviously, if you're a business owner who's actually accessed this kind of funding, we'd love to hear from you. So share your experience with us by perhaps tweeting us on at RV the Business.
Absolutely. Vicky, what have you seen this week?
Oh, well, I'm not a football fan at all. I'm afraid rugby and cricket are my thing any day. But I don't think we could really go through the show without a mention of the great Sir Alex Ferguson. Not because we've suddenly turned into the sports show, but simply to say that whether you're a fan of Manchester United or not, no one, I don't think, can deny the quality of the management that Sir Alex has shown over the years. And catching up in the papers, so many of the papers, they're not just talking about football, they're talking about management. And I think, as a business show, there's quite a few points that we can learn from the brilliance of Sir Alex. And there were just a few that I thought we should take note of, and these are the top three that I pulled out. One is that it's very clear that he's always had a clear vision of where he wants to be, where he wants the club to be. And, there's absolutely no holds barred in terms of the size and the scale of the operation. And equally, no doubt about his ability, and therefore, your ability in your business to get there. And Man U are always known for never giving up. It doesn't matter how close you are to the final whistle, never give up. Those are all messages I think that can be really, really valuable to any manager. Also, I think as a manager, it was pretty clear that he focused on managing. And there's a clear message there. It's sort of don't dabble around in all the other areas. Specialise in managing and let the responsibilities of other things, like in his instance, whether it be training or coaching or what have you, let those people do that because that's what you've employed them to do. So delegate whenever and wherever it's possible. Don't try and do everybody's jobs for them. And then finally, I think this also became very clear. He's a bit of a Marmite character. He clearly didn't worry that not everybody liked him. But there's no doubt about the fact that every single person respected him, and respect is very, very much more valuable in business as a manager than probably anything else. So, there's just a few things that were coming out from, by accident reading about what in this instance wasn't just about football. It was about brilliant management, and, all businesses will get on very, very well if they have brilliant management, and, it's absolutely top down. The style at the top will filter down through the bottom, and if it's good, then it'll be great. And if it's bad, when it gets, it's close to the customer, I can guarantee that if it's bad management, then you'll be losing customers. So lots of lessons to be learnt from football in this instance.
Yes, and I mean, Alex Ferguson has actually been to Harvard Business School and done lectures there. I think last autumn. Yeah. He sort of went there, and it's interesting. There's a picture of him sort of talking in Harvard Business School with this kind of big, complicated blackboard with lots of management, leadership, players, wags, and all sorts of arrows and diagrams. If you want to sort of make a science out of it. But you're absolutely right. Every time you hear him talk, he's talking about in the interests of Manchester United Football Club. Yeah. Now, sometimes he trod on a lot of toes in actually doing that, made some people outside of Manchester United Football Club sort of unhappy. But he was always, as you said, very clear, sort of like or loathe him. As you said, he is a sort of Marmite character. You've got to admire the guy, I think. Yeah, in my other life, I teach strategy at the University of Hertfordshire, and I teach at master's level with the students. One of the things we do is look at various case studies of great strategists, modern strategists, and he's one that we've looked at. And, again, unpopular decisions, selling players like David Beckham, on the basis that he's about the team. He's all about the team. Everyone pulls together. So if one person stands out and they're getting more attention than anyone else, it's detracting from what they're trying to achieve in the organisation. So, very interesting stuff. Yeah, my one is you're going to think I'm stuck like a record stuck on this. I'm back to stats and GDP figures, and I'm just going to say I told you so. The chief economist at the Office of National Statistics this week came out and criticised the, as we have been, in fact, the counterproductive public debate about the economy. There's a chap called Joe Grice who's in charge of the ONS. And his comments came after it emerged that the so-called double-dip recession may never actually have happened.
Honestly.
It reminds me of that whole series in Dallas where actually Bobby Ewing sort of, is in the shower at the end of the series, and actually the whole of the previous series was a dream, and this whole double dip thing, did it really happen or not? And basically we've just got, I'm not saying there hasn't been difficulty in the economy and it's been very flat, and I think we can all agree on that. In some cases there clearly has been some things going on, but Mr. Grice told Radio 4 that we didn't get our sums wrong. He said, explains that stats were subject to revision when new information became available. Quite right. And and he criticised the focus on talk of a double dip, as we have been, and the triple dip, and just saying that really we should start getting real and concentrating on some of the longer term sort of factors, orders, sales, how we feel, whether we're happy, and things like that, which I think are the real meat and drink of business, and rather than whether one particular quarter was up a little bit or down a little bit. And so I just, when I heard the guy from the ONS, not trying to necessarily justify the ONS and their particular stats, but actually just saying kind of get real, people, and let's not obsess about this sort of short-term reporting.
But isn't it funny that they're saying, it's everyone else's fault because they've talked the recession up, when actually they were the people that issued the statements, issued the figures. Yeah. Honestly, nonsense.
It was interesting, actually. I was listening to another radio station this morning.
Is there one?
To say, and there was a woman from the quite high up in the construction industry talking. And she was absolutely furious that the figures had been wrong, and how are they supposed to run a business with incorrect data and information. And that well-known presenter, John Humphreys, actually turned around and said, well, so what? Are you running a business based on other people's figures, or are you running a business based on your own figures? And can't you tell where you're at year on year from your own data? And what's the point in sort of almost blaming somebody else? And I was thinking, here, just get on with it. The rest is background. You know what you need to do. You know what you've got to try and achieve, and you know what your balance, well, if one would hope, as you pointed out earlier, you would hope you know what your own cash flow is doing and where you're at.
And we've talked about it before, haven't we? There are lots of businesses that we're seeing that come in and talk on our show who are bucking the trend. So, it is what you make of it. It is about getting it right, and it is about focus.
Okay, I'll try not to talk about stats for at least a month now.
We don't believe you.
But anyway, I'm very excited. We've got Tony Picciuto coming up straight after these messages.
Wondering what you could do this weekend? Well, you don't have to go far from home. There's plenty to discover on your doorstep. Join me, Ellie O'Fira, this Friday at midday, when we'll be giving you some great ways to get out and about close to home. That's Out and About, Friday at midday, here on 92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
The St Albans District Talking newspaper is a local charity which offers a free news service to people who are visually impaired. News is taken from the Hearts Advertiser and is read and recorded onto cassette tapes and memory sticks, which are sent out each week. If you know someone who is visually impaired who might be interested, please ring Linda Randall on 01582 832275 for more information.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners.
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
Yes, you're listening to the business. It's just gone 16 minutes past 8 on a Sunday evening, and now we've got our interview slot with Vicky.
So it's welcome back to Tony Picciuto. Buongiorno, Italia.
Said perfectly.
Oh, thank goodness
just
for
like
that.
Sophie Loren.
Oh, goodness me. Well, what a compliment. Little nose tweak to Trevor there. Now, Tony, thanks for coming back.
No problem, pleasure.
Last time we had quite a detailed discussion about social networking and the fantastic activity that you do on Twitter and Facebook, etc. and how it was engaging customers. So this week, what I'd really like to do is to focus on the retail aspect and how you attract new customers and keep existing customers happy. Okay. So that's the sort of thing that I'd like to talk about, if that's okay with you.
Of course, yeah, fantastic.
So some people, I'm sure most of our listeners will know exactly where your shop is, but for the ones that don't, would you like to tell them?
Yeah, we're in Lattimore Road, which is in between London Road and Victoria Street. And it's a great position. I think it's one of the best positions in the whole of St Albans.
That's really interesting, because most people would want to be, somewhere where there was, the high street, lots of footfall, lots of people milling around. Why do you think that's a really great position?
If we were in a high street, we would have gone 20 years ago.
Really?
Seriously. We would not survive with the rent and rates. No way. We were very fortunate when I took over from my father. I moved into a very small shop, and the rent was extremely low, and the rates were incredibly low as well. And then there's this law came out where we got a 50% discount on the rates as well, because we were so small. So it enabled us to survive, and so it's that was the main reason why we survived. And for such a small shop, we did have quite a high turnover. And it just helped immensely.
So, do you get a lot of traffic down there? I mean, is the traffic through from the station, or is the passing trade, or is it local trade? I mean, would you call it sort of like the people who live near you come and shop with you?
The way I look at it is that people use that road as a cut through, and they may not stop, but they see us. It's like a permanent advert. And we have all these mums dropping off their kids at Loreto College and going into town, and people walking to the station or driving to the station, and even going the other way. There's a lot of people coming past, and they see us, and they might not use us for 6 months, but when they need something, a specialist Italian, then they know, I know that shop, I'll go there. And we're very lucky, because I feel that we have, during the week, we have lots and lots of offices around there, yeah.
Oh, right,
so we have a lot of people coming in for lunch. Okay, and then at the weekend it turns over. Everybody who commutes into London is at home, and so we have all these people who live in the houses, which are virtually empty during the week. Then they use us during at the weekends. And it's a constant flow of people. It really is a constant flow of people. And I used to hate my position. I used to hate it. But since we've done the refurbishment, I've grown to love it. And I really do believe it's one of the best positions in St Albans, because we just don't have those high rent and rates, and we have quite a...
Well, it sounds like you're really well covered, sort of like both ends of the week and in the middle.
It's incredible. It really is. I mean, I was always worried about the parking.
Yeah.
And when I took advice with a client of mine who deals with retail properties and everything like that, he actually said, remember one thing, if they want to come, they will come. Yeah. And if they have to park 500 yards away, they will come.
I think the proof of that is that you see all those empty spaces now on the high street, where people on the face of it have a much better. You might say that there's more traffic, sort of more footfall, if you like, going through there. But of course, many of those businesses haven't survived or thrived. I know it's a generalisation, because there's many different types of businesses, but it just shows that location is important, but not everything, is it?
No, it's not. Because if we were in the town centre as well, especially now where you can't park, how could let's say our older Italian customers, how can they come and do a £70, £80 weekly shop? Yeah. How are they going to carry it to the car? How are they going to carry it to the multi-storey? Yeah. At least there they can park directly outside the shop. Parking is limited, but
and presumably those people would know the best time to come, when it's a bit quieter, etc.
And we always tell them where to park.
Yeah. Now I just sort of picked up. You talked about refurbishment. How important is the style and the shape of the shop, the outside, the attractiveness, how it's laid out inside? How important is that to people?
It's very important. It really is important. I mean, ever since we done the refurbishment in 2011, and it was designed by a lovely customer of mine called Constance. She just took the projects in her own hands, and she just transformed our business. I mean, and the outside, people didn't notice us too much. They just thought we were just a little general fruit and veg shop. Yeah. But since we actually started putting the flower pots out there and the olive trees and the patio and the signs, people actually slow down now, and they actually stop. So they slow down and look at us now.
So you sort of created a destination almost, and it looks Italian.
It does. I mean, we call it Italy on our doorstep.
Yeah.
That's and in the sunshine, when you've got all those tables and chairs on the forecourt, and you've got all these lovely people sitting there having ice cream, coffees.
You feel as though you're friends.
Of course, yes. You could be anywhere in Italy. When the sun shines in England, I mean, it's probably one of the best places to be.
It's also really nice. That's the second time that you've mentioned that it was one of your customers that helped you. So you had a customer that helped you with the location concept. Another customer's helped you with the design and the layout, and that. What other customers have helped you with other aspects?
Well, I mean, Radio Verulam's Nick Hazels helps me with Twitter.
Yeah.
You just pick up nuggets of information that give you inspiration, and inspire you, and
keep you thinking about the next idea.
Exactly, and because we have such a great, our customers are so sort of like food orientated.
Yeah.
They go to Borough Market, they travel, and they come back and they get, I tried this, I tried that, this is fantastic, and you literally go on the internet and you start sort of searching for these products.
So that's quite interesting in itself. So your customers telling you what they're liking and what they're seeing, that helps you develop your range as well.
Of course. I mean, every time I do my cheese counter, and I try and get new cheese in. I mean, there's this one particular customer that I always try to impress, because I know that he tries, he's quite knowledgeable about the cheeses. So if I can impress him, I know that everyone else will follow. And when we do our wine tastings, there's a couple of wine experts who come in from Hertford. Okay, and I always try and make sure that. We have a couple of extra special wines for them that they're going to sort of pick up on. And
it sounds so much as though it's all about customer engagement. It's all about the relationship that you have with your customers.
My customers are brilliant. I mean, I love them totally, all of them.
So how do you get new ones?
How do we get new ones?
The big question.
I mean, a lot of it is passing trade. A lot of it is word of mouth. I mean, one of my favourite customers. Debbie Lambert, she came in one day and said, what's your chorizo like? And I said, it's great, it really is great. And this must have been the second or third time. She goes, well, I buy it in Waitrose and it's fantastic. And she came back and she bought more, and then from then on she's become one of our most regular major customers.
Gee, there's something else that's going on here. You keep talking about these customers and you're mentioning them by name. I mean, how many stores know the names and the surnames of their customers? That's extraordinary.
I've got to say, we're very lucky. I mean, and my staff are brilliant as well. I mean, they everyone comes in, and within 2 or 3 weeks we know their names, we know their shoe size, everything. We know everything about them. I mean, we know what coffee they want, if they want sugar, and it's really is a really sort of like a friendly atmosphere. I mean, we've got one of our customers, Spence, who's always on Twitter for us. He's always promoting us on Twitter.
Fantastic.
And he's great. I mean, I don't have to do anything. He does it all.
That sounds good. So if there was somebody sort of thinking about setting up in retail today, difficult environment, difficult market, what would be your biggest tip to them? That is apart from don't set up an Italian deli around the corner.
The biggest tip, be prepared to work really hard. I mean, really, really hard. I mean, first of all, 60 hours is minimum. Yeah, 60 hours a week is minimum. But just don't take your customers as fools. The customers know a lot more than you do. I've seen that in my experience, where the customers will come back and said, you know what, that wasn't great, and and it's good. And listen to your customers, because try and improve it. Always try and improve it. it really is a case of just trying to keep the customer happy all the time and give the customer what they want, not what you think you should be giving them.
Right.
Tony, just on that, you mentioned about sort of 60 hours as at least 60 hours. I mean, do you as a business owner though, I mean, does it feel like work to you? A lot of people sort of feel very passionate about their work and it ceases to feel like work, and almost the trick is actually to stop doing too much sometimes, because you can never run out of things to do to improve the business. Do you have to rein yourself in?
I mean, yes, I do. It really is a case of that. My family always on at me saying I work too hard, I'm never home, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Even my friends and clients say it as well. But the day that I don't enjoy switching on the light when I walk into the shop, and seeing this beautiful thing that I have. Yeah. I know that's a little bit blowing my own trumpet, but I still get a thrill from it.
Well, you're proud of it.
I'm very proud of it. And it's the time to sort of say, okay, I'll go and stack shelves in Waitrose or something.
Oh God, don't do that. Don't do that. No. So what have you got coming up for 2013? What are the big new initiatives that are going on at Buongiorno, Italia?
It's always trying to find the next interesting food products. Yeah. And that is really hard, because sometimes it feels like you've got to a point where you can't find anything different. And nowadays everyone's trying to be a little bit, if I can say the word, poncy. They're always trying to find.
Is that technical term?
Well, yeah.
Italian.
They always want olive oil, that's been pressed between the breasts of virgins and stuff like that. And sometimes you just got to stop and say that's not what people want. They just want a good, decent olive oil. It doesn't matter where, if it tastes good, then it's good enough for them, because sometimes you can overprice yourself. Yeah, but we're always trying to find new products, always trying to improve the image of the shop, we really are hoping to sort of like do a little bit of e-commerce soon with our hampers.
Excellent.
We're trying to get that in place for Christmas. Right. Our wine tastings go strength to strength, and you really feel like everything's getting, always moving along, and
Excellent.
It's nice.
Well, I know you had a wine tasting recently.
Mm-hmm.
So next time you have a wine tasting, if you'd like to invite the business team along,
of course,
then we'd be really interested to see how you do retail at its best. Thank you so much for coming along.
Problem.
It's
Absolute
always
pleasure.
Fabulous to hear the enthusiasm and the energy that's going into Buongiorno Italia.
Thank you.
So thank you ever so much, Tony.
Thank you.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
Mosaic brings together a group of singers based in and around St Albans, each with a wealth of experience in a wide range of choirs in the UK and abroad. Mosaic have built a repertoire that covers pretty much everything from Renaissance polyphony to contemporary classics. Bird and Berlin, Victoria and Vaughan Williams, Gesualdo and Gershwin, and many, many more. And they have pieced this all together to produce performances to the highest professional standards. The concerts they give each year provide you with good music, well sung, that is appreciated and enjoyed. For more details, visit mosaicchamberchoir.co.uk.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners.
The Solid Gold Music Show on Radio Verulam is with you on Saturday mornings between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Join Derek Staines and Stephen Hall as they flash you back, value discs, have a brief biog, and interview the stars. We also allow SJH to ramble down nostalgia lane. It's all on the premier oldies show here on 92.6 FM. The Solid Gold Music Show, sponsored by DocGuard of Luton.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Welcome back to the business. It's just gone 8:30 on a fine Sunday evening. Now, we love to have your top tips, best and worst decisions, eureka or light bulb moments. We've been getting loads of them in. Latest one, actually, I sought out myself. I talked to somebody called Moule, who's the managing director of a local business called Enterprise Marketing Solutions. And I asked her, first of all, about her best decision in business, and this is what she said.
My best decision was actually taking on some staff when I got to the point that I was starting to work ridiculous hours and starting to feel I was overstretched and in danger of not delivering the level of customer service that I pride the business on. I sponsored the Young Enterprise Best Marketing Campaign of the Year, which was something I created, and as a result of that we awarded a week's work placement to all of the members of the winning company, which resulted in us meeting a young man called Andrew, who has actually now started working with me full time and has actually set up our own in-house online division, so helping us to provide a much fuller service for that.
Okay, and if you dare, the worst decision?
The worst decision, I think, is not going with your gut. Your gut always is a very good guide as to making the right decisions, and I think when it comes to not saying goodbye to clients that are not profitable, don't appreciate your expertise, your input, and what you're actually providing to them.
Have you ever had a sort of light bulb moment, a moment where everything's just sort of clicked in your thinking?
Yes, and that was 5 years in when, after a year of cash flow hell, after we'd been in this recession for a little while, I finally swallowed my pride, went over to see my dad and said, my father had actually been running his business for well over 40 years, and I said to him, Dad, I don't get it. 5 years in business, why is there not more money in the bank account? And he just said, take a seat. 2 hours later, I had my cash flow forecast, a budget, a sales target, and he actually explained how they were going to work, how I needed to use them, and that for me was a real light bulb, and that's really changed the business, and now we're absolutely storming ahead.
And would you have a sort of top tip for anybody who's thinking of starting their business?
Do it. It's great fun. Be brave, and above all, ask for help, because you don't know everything, and there are lots of lovely people out there that are more than willing to help you, and you can probably help them in return as well. So do it.
Join Simon Carver on Fridays from 6:30 p.m. for the Film Guide. We look at the UK cinema box office top 10, a selection of the new cinema releases and the best of the week's films on free-to-air TV. That's Fridays from 6:30 p.m. on West Hart's Drive Time with Danny Smith, exclusively on Radio Verulam 92.6 FM.
Hi, I'm Kathy Weston.
And I'm Lydia El-Khoury.
Join us every Thursday evening on The Parent Show for expert interviews, local information about caring for children in West Harts,
and a What's On guide you just can't afford to miss. We're here every Thursday between 8 and 9 p.m. on Radio Verulam 92.6 FM.
Don't forget to tune in!
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
And hello. Well, as you know, every week we debate the big business issues. And this week we're welcoming back Tony Picciuto, and also joining us is Mike Dilke, Managing Director of the Chair Company. So welcome to you both. Now, perhaps Mike, since you've just joined us, you could tell us a little bit about your business.
Certainly, yes. My business is essentially an import business, and I import chairs, a specific type of chair called the back app from Sweden.
Right.
And I'm the distributor for the back app chair in the UK.
Right.
And I also import some very funky desks that go up and down at the touch of a button.
Oh.
And I'm the UK distributor for a manufacturer of those as well, and that manufacturer is also in Sweden.
Right, okay. And if we wanted to find out more about your business, what's your email address? Your web address.
My web address is relaxbackuk.com.
And you're also on Twitter, aren't you?
Yes, there's a Twitter feed, and that's Relaxback UK.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for that brief overview. And I believe that you're going to come back on one of our shows in September to talk in more detail about the business as well.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that, and I might even bring one of the chairs in as well.
I was going to say,
exciting.
I mean, what do you think of our chairs? I mean, they're pretty horrible, aren't they?
I've seen better.
Yeah.
But you will be better off on my chairs, certainly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think so.
You might even get a good deal as well.
Oh, it gets better and better. Okay, well, on to our first topic. To recruit or not to recruit? That is the question. So a big concern for small business owners, amongst a number of issues, is dealing with the logistics of how to go about employing staff, as well as when is the best time to take on a new staff member. In a recent Guardian poll, they found that 79% of their readers outsource different aspects of these daily tasks to freelancers. And some entrepreneurs may wonder whether there's any point in taking people on in-house, given that having employees on the books will require sorting out contracts, increasing your office space, complying with health and safety regulations, working in a team, you name it. There's a number of issues that they might be concerned about. Another risk associated with hiring employees is managing your cash flow when a salary may be your highest overhead. Statistics from the Federation of Small Business showed that nearly 1 in 5 SMEs would be more likely to hire employees if they could ensure prompt payment from their customers. So again, ensuring that you're paid on time so that you can cover these salaries that you're concerned about backs up that issue as we've mentioned. So weighing up the potential pitfalls against the benefits can be tough. So how do you decide whether or not to take on employees at the relevant stage in your business? And let's see, shall we start with you, Tony?
Well, I was quite lucky. I mean, recently we took on a part-time young lady, but that was because one of our main employees, Kaja, she broke her arm on the ice, and basically she's Polish, so she's on her own here, and I said, you might as well go back to Poland for 4 weeks and recover. And she'd done that, and it was a mutually agreed situation. And then me and Dario, who's sort of like he's my other employee, we worked really, really hard, and we managed to keep the shop going. But then the strain of us being there sort of like 10 hours a day every day was quite hard on both of us, and it just showed the need that we needed someone else.
Right.
And if this would happen again, if it happened to me or happened to Dario, we need that extra person just that busy periods. So that was quite easy for us to. It was a decision that was made for us, and that was quite good.
So you've taken on this person in addition to the 2 employees, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And it's worked pretty well. In the quiet times, it frees me up to do other things as well, and it it's made everyone a bit more relaxed. I mean, we were running around a little bit too much.
Okay.
So that was made for us. That was good.
Okay, Mike.
Well, my business is quite different from Tony's in that it's much smaller. In fact, I really often describe it as a micro business. So at the moment, it's just me running around like crazy doing everything. However, I'm very keen, and I do this to get help for specific things, particularly if they're sort of more specialised things that maybe I could do, but it would take me much longer, and I probably wouldn't do such a good job anyway. So the kind of thing that I'm very happy to pay and get specific help for would be things like PR, writing a press release, something like that. Recently, I got someone to help me, and simple things, or small things. Recently, I got someone to help me design a new business card. And things like that are really helpful. So, although I don't employ anyone directly, my sort of way of dealing with that in the short term is getting specific help. And I've hooked up with a nice network of people, local business people, and I can always find help and advice.
So for you, the whole concept of outsourcing is a much more sensible model for your type of business?
At the moment, yes, because it's still relatively small.
Yeah.
I've only been going, I lose track, a year and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see what happens in the future. I wouldn't be scared of taking someone on if that's what I had to do. I'd do it.
Could you see a time where you might need to employ, and if so, what sort of role do you think you would need to bring someone in as? The
thing that I end up doing in a rush or doing last thing is the admin side of things, making invoices, making sure I've actually sent out an invoice for chairs and tables that I've delivered.
Right.
Have I invoiced for it? Have I invoiced the correct amount?
Yeah.
And then have they actually paid me? These kind of things.
Right.
So yes, really important things.
Yes, absolutely. We've talked about the importance of cash flow.
So those would be, I would get someone to help me with those.
Right. Okay. Tony?
I have to agree with Mike. I mean, one of the decisions I made when we expanded was to get a bookkeeper to do my books, and I used to try and do it, and it was, it was a real hassle. And now it just frees up time to do what you're good at. If you can employ someone indirectly, outsourcing, like a bookkeeper, it just frees you up 2 hours, an hour a day, and you can concentrate on your customers and taking your business forward. I have to agree with Mike on that.
Yeah.
But then you do have to be careful to let them do it, because you're paying them to do it because actually they're probably better at it than you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but resist the temptation to stick your nose in. Which
you're absolutely right.
It's very hard, isn't it? Managers are often accused of over-managing, and business owners are probably accused of that more often than not, because you're so passionate about your business and there's so much at stake that you almost find it impossible to let go.
Oh yeah, ask my staff. I mean, they'll tell you. I mean, they'll give you a list of things that annoy them about me. The simplest thing. I mean, I'll pick up on the simplest thing, and they absolutely hate it. And
they're always smiling when I go in, Tony.
They're smiling at you, but they were smiling at me though.
Gritted teeth.
It's a really important issue though, because particularly that first employee, if you're a micro business and you're a lot of people will be hesitant about employing somebody because they might be worrying about whether they've got enough work to give them, or whether they will, and they'll say, I'm very relaxed about how you do it, but don't do it like that though. And so there is a sort of, particularly with that first employee, you've got to be very careful who you choose, because you're getting somebody to sort of represent the company in your image, and you've got to have some trust to be absolutely sure, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many things, as the report said, there are so many things that come into play. At a simple level, you think, well, it's just an additional overhead, and actually I've just got to cover the overheads, but it's so much more than that.
It is, and the way someone told me, there's no point employing someone if you're not going to do something else to bring your business forward. It's if you want to, don't do it just to make your life. Just to go and play a round of golf, but do it so you can take your business forward. And if you're going to stay the same, then don't bother taking someone on.
Well, we all always hear the importance of working on your business, not just in your business, don't we?
Yeah.
If you don't take that time to step back, look at your strategy, check that it's still on the right track, then how on earth are you going to move things forward? What do you do once you've got people on board about keeping them when you're a small business, stopping them from looking elsewhere, perhaps to a larger organisation?
Well, you try, and I always try and keep track of the pay rate in the supermarkets and other places, and hopefully that we're on par, a little bit over, maybe a touch under. I'm not entirely sure, but there are a few perks, and it's like a small family. We're changing, everyone's changing days off if they need to. If someone needs to dash off, they can. It's still a workplace, but there is a sense of relaxing that if you need to do something, then we'll find a way around it.
So much more flexible than perhaps working for a big corporate.
Yes, I hope so. I hope that's how they feel about it. I doubt they do, but but I hope they do.
If you're listening in.
Yes, if you're any of Tony's employees, please do phone in.
Or tweet us.
Or tweet us, yes. RV the business.
Mike?
Well, I'm just thinking back to when I worked for other people. I actually usually worked... not usually. All my jobs have been with large businesses. So slightly different. But I'm thinking back to my good bosses that I would go the extra mile for, and I think they were they all let me get on with things in my own way. They were all people that you would like to go down the pub with.
You make me feel very uncomfortable now.
So they had those two things in common. But having said that, they were also people that you sort of knew that you really, if they suggest you do something, you normally would. So it was kind of a bit of a tightrope, isn't it?
There was respect there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The first time I ever got promoted into management, I remember my boss saying to me, Roma, the first rule of management, you're not there to be liked. You're not there to be popular. And if it's about popularity stakes, you're never going to manage effectively. So then trying to find a balance was an interesting one. And in one sense, you don't want to be the mean old ogre. In the other sense, you can't quite be one of the lads, as it were. It's finding that balance, isn't it? I mean, Tony, you sort of laughed when we said about the person you'd like to go down the pub with.
They always make me pay, but
that's your job.
As
the boss to pay.
Well, I mean,
for the pub.
They could actually sort of suggest, they'll pay for a round, but no, no, you're absolutely right, and especially, even though our shop is quite small, and we're on top of each other, 10 hours a day, and there's always a lot of jobs to do, and it's just, I want it done my way. They can do it perfectly well their way, and it's just about me letting go. But I mean, it's very hard to be the good guy, and then have to say to them, look, you're doing this wrong, and I want it done this way.
You need to look at the 1 minute manager. Have you ever come across the 1 minute manager?
No, is that how long he lasted?
Well, we've actually got about 1 minute juice break, and Roma will show you a copy.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
People living with cancer or life-threatening illness can often feel isolated, confused and alone. Grove House in Waverley Road, St Albans leads the way in offering free specialist care and support to patients and their families affected by cancer and life-threatening illness in St Albans, Harpenden and Dacorum. To find out more about their services, or how you can become a volunteer, or make a regular donation, or leave a gift in your will, phone 01727 731 000 or visit grove-house.org.uk.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners.
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
And yes, so Tony, no, you can't beat people with sticks. Oh, sorry, we're back on it.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. So, yes, welcome back. And we're on to our next topic of discussion. It's turned into therapy tonight, hasn't it? We're all like admitting things and it's all very so it seems that the market for luxury goods is far from suffering, and in fact it ties well with what you brought up earlier in the show, Trevor, that this issue of double dip and triple dip recessions is bunkum in certain marketplaces, and in fact yet another report has showed that the luxury goods market, particularly in the e-commerce luxury goods markets, showing a rise of 25%, which is huge if you think about it. Concerns about the state of the global economy don't seem to be slowing the worldwide appetite for luxury goods, according to recent research released by the business consulting firm Bain & Company. In fact, total demand for luxury goods has remained very strong, with worldwide revenues estimated to have grown 10% in 2012. In January 2013, i.e. this year, a survey of worldwide luxury marketers conducted by Worldwide Business Research and Shop Igniter showed luxury marketers' interest in growing their digital visibility. 85% of respondents plan to increase their digital marketing spend this year, with 72% planning to up the ante on social media specifically. Now, we've talked before with you, Tony, about how you use social media very effectively. So, I mean, interesting. If you think about it, in both cases, in both your businesses, what you provide could be termed luxury because it's high end. And in your case, Mike, you're dealing with a particular piece of furniture that isn't your day-to-day piece of furniture. People are investing in something that will actually do them good. So why is it, do you think, that people are spending more on luxury items?
Well, what I sell, my chair in particular, whether it's a luxury item, I think depends big time on the final customer. So, for instance, I do sell a number of these chairs to banks, London banks. Now, the chair is, I mean, it's a few £100s, but you can spend a lot more on an ergonomic chair. But the fact is, if they require one of their member of staff to be comfortable, say a trader or something, a trader will make a fortune for their employer. So if they're uncomfortable and off for an afternoon or a day, the cost of the chair is like insignificant. So I've had situations where they don't even ask the cost. They say, right, when can you have this chair here?
Right.
And so the important thing is, when can it be there? So in that instance, is it really high end? I don't know. I suspect not. But where it can really be regarded as high end, when it comes down to some individuals, because I think a lot of us don't necessarily attach a great value to our health, weirdly, as it may sound, because I don't know why. I mean, we might be used to just having the NHS deal with us or whatever. So, but I think people, if they're just slightly uncomfortable, all of a sudden a few £100s for a chair is very much high end. So it's still, in my view, in that instance, a difficult sell. It can be, because it is so different. So the need really has to be there.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
Well, that makes sense.
Tony, it does make sense.
I just feel that people, because everything's so widely available now, that people are looking for something a little bit extra, a little bit special, especially, you don't want to be sitting around a dinner table when someone says, oh yeah, the buffalo mozzarella from Sainsbury's. We're people, when they go high end, they do want quality. And we're lucky. We have quality, and we have customers who are demanding value for money as well. But they are prepared to spend on quality. And I'm the same when I go shopping. I just want value for money. If I've got to spend 10% extra, I just want that 10% extra special feeling about it. And people, especially in this area here, they are prepared to spend. And that's what we're finding.
We are so much more aware as a consumer society of the importance of value, aren't we? And even if we go back to your point, Mike, about the types of customer, you could argue from a really cynical perspective that because we've also become a litigious society, that what the banks don't want is someone suing them because they've ended up with some terrible back problem as a result that's attributed directly to the way that they work at the office.
Yeah, I mean, there is an element of that, and in fact, you get people that do workstation assessments.
Yes.
And there are loads of these sorts of people.
Yeah.
And they've become my favourite people, actually. They all love the back-up chair and suggest it when it's appropriate. Definitely. Whether that's really driven by the litigious nature of people today is I don't know. I like to think that it's driven by some companies really getting and understanding the value of their staff, and if they are comfortable, they will be much more productive. I mean, I actually don't call myself a seller of chairs. I say I'm a provider of comfort, efficiency, and creativity.
Sums it up very nicely, doesn't it?
Sounds great.
It does sound great. We need these chairs in here. Okay. Well, would you believe we've run out of time? Because we spent so long talking about the first question.
Yes.
But before we go, what we must do is ask each of you to just repeat again. If, first of all, Buongiorno Italia, where are you based, Tony?
68 Lattimore Road in St Albans.
And what's your website?
It's www.buongiornoitalia.co.uk.
Oh, you see, he says it much nicer than you. and your
I have to admit it. It's had a lot more practice. So
yeah, that's true.
Twitter is
Twitter.
Buongiorno Deli.
Lovely. And Mike?
My website is www.relaxbackuk.com.
And your Twitter?
Relaxbackuk.
Lovely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. Just quickly going to play a clip from Alex Shoobert from Wenter. Wenter was founded about 30 years ago. It's a not-for-profit organisation helping businesses in Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire. Clare McAnulty caught up with Alex to ask our 3 favourite questions. Yes, you know them by now. And she started by asking Alex what her best business decision had been, and this is what she said.
I think I'd have to say the best decision I've made was to do an MBA at Hertfordshire Uni, which I did a couple of years ago. I've been working in business advice for a long while, but that really, really helps to kind of give you some structure to think about, gave me loads of confidence, and it sort of gives you some frameworks for thinking about things in a different way that's really, really useful.
What would you say would be your worst decision?
Well, this is a bit of a cop-out, but because I'm a business advisor, my job is really to help other people make decisions, so I'm not making the decision for them. But I guess the way I help people to avoid making bad decisions is to help people think about things in a different way and really make sure they've done the research and they know where they are at the moment in order to avoid making those bad decisions.
And is there a light bulb moment, a moment when you suddenly thought, I get it, or I understand?
I think really the most important light bulb moment for me was when I realised that actually everybody else doesn't know everything already. And actually nobody does. And the secret is to ask questions, go and find things out and kind of keep learning. I think that's probably an important lesson.
That was Clare who? Clare McAnulty, Roma, and interviewing Alex Shoobert, friend of our show, and we've just got about a minute and a half now, just to talk about a couple of very quick items. There's speed networking. I should say, introducing this to you, Roma, that the event is on Tuesday, May the 21st. It doesn't actually say so on our list, but do you want to tell us a bit about that one?
Well, the speed networking, fastest and most cost-effective way to positively promote your business, and really good fun. Get more business fast. Book now for the speed networking, hosted by June Corey of My Mustard. And speed working works like dating, or speed dating as it were. It's £20 plus VAT for members and £25 plus VAT for non-members, and you can book online.
Where is it?
Is that the one at St Michael's Manor?
I think it is, yes, and it's on the Chamber of Commerce website in any case.
Sorry.
We're just coming up to, we've got about sort of 30 seconds left. Vicky and Roma, anything that we've sort of learnt this evening?
Lots about how best to work with your staff and some tips on keeping them.
Yeah, I think it's always fun when you hear people who are very passionate about what they do, and getting involved and getting engaged with customers, and making that the key point of your business is it really applies so brilliantly to any business. It doesn't matter how remote you are or whether you're serving them over the counter. That passion comes across and it works.
And no better note on which to end it. Thank you very much for listening, and see you soon.
You've been listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. If there's anything in the show you want to talk to us about, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.